Hello, and welcome back to another episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm your host, Bryan Austin of Red Kraken Creative and law firm Alchemy, filling in for Charlie Mann. If it's your first time joining us on the show, welcome. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a review to make it easier for other law firm entrepreneurs to find us. These episodes, my friends, are all about helping law firm owners scale their firms, build systems, and get clients through the door. Today, I want to do something. Today, I don't want to do any of that. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to sit and rather than help you build serenity in your wallet, I want to spend today to help you with the serenity of your mind, help you with the serenity of your heart. Today, we're going to build your mental and emotional wealth. That's what we're going to focus on. Because can I be honest with you, my friends? It's been a stressful week. And I imagine where you are, it's probably been a stressful week for you too. There's so many things that require our attention. The world, your family, your state, your business. And in the midst of all of that, you have your team, people who are looking for you to be the captain, to guide through the troubled waters of whatever you're faced with. So I wanted to do an episode today to talk about stress management, equip you with some tools for how you can better handle the stress of your life. Because truthfully, if you're operating your own firm, if you're scaling, if you're grinding, if you're hustling, you've worked incredibly hard to get where you are. Today, I'm going to give you tools so that you can really relish in that. And at the beginning of your day, fall into the work easier. And at the end of the day, come home a little more peaceful. Now, this show is all about what they don't teach you in law school. And so I would wager when you went to law school, be it a couple of years ago or 20 years ago, they probably taught you that being an attorney, owning your own law firm, would be stressful. And they probably left it at that. They equipped you with the fact that you would have stress, but maybe they didn't give you tools as to how to cope with that stress. So rather than focus on scaling your law firm today, we're going to focus, my friends, on how to scale your life. Because here's the truth. Law school does a great job preparing you for the fact that your career path is stressful. But does it teach you how to manage that stress? So where do we begin from Guru Bryan? How do I equip you properly? I'm gonna begin with what I love more than anything else in this world, which are stories. I think stories can change people's lives, change their perspectives. So we'll start today's episode with just that, a parable of the shoemaker and the merchant. Friends, when I say the word success, what comes to mind? And most of us are going to picture the firm that's growing, the staff we've hired, maybe the revenue milestones, the KPIs that we're trying to hit. But let me share a story to try to turn on its head what success could look like. What key components are essential to the more tangible ideas of success that we look at? So once upon a time, there was a wealthy merchant that had everything. He had gold, he had property, he had influence, he had respect. Yet at night, the merchant lay awake, restless. He was anxious about losing everything he built, anxious from all the demands of the day. And as he sat laying in bed, he heard from his open window the shoemaker next door, cobbling at his shoes and singing. The merchant was driven mad by this song. Day and night, this poor shoemaker was singing his song as happy as he could be, even though he didn't have half of what the merchant possessed. So the merchant got an idea. He would stop this shoemaker from singing, and in turn would line the merchant's pockets with a little bit of wealth. He approached the shoemaker one day and proposed something. You see, the merchant had so much wealth, he couldn't possibly manage all of it. And so he asked the shoemaker to hold on to all of his wealth, more money than the poor shoemaker had ever seen. With that, the merchant settled into bed. He had someone to manage his finances, so he didn't need to stress, and the shoemaker would be too busy to sing his idle, happy songs. The shoemaker suddenly found himself completely overburdened with this new task. He was so worried about losing the money that he had obtained that he had no time for singing. He had no energy to put into it. He suddenly found himself exhausted, thinking about nothing but this new wealth that had come into his life. Finally, he approaches the merchant, says, "I'm sorry," and gives the money back. Maybe that was a bad business decision on the shoemaker's part. I don't know. But the moral of the story is that wealth isn't everything. And that with all the success you can obtain, if that's the sole thing that has your attention, you will be in perpetual stress. And that you can have everything in the world, but if you can't sleep at night, if you don't have peace, if you don't have calm, what's it worth? There are other stories like this that come to mind. The story of the businessman and the fisherman, where the businessman approaches the fisherman and says, you can really scale this business. And the fisherman says, why? Well, so that you can get more boats. And the fisherman says, why? And the businessman says, well, so you can have more money. And the fisherman says, why? And the businessman says, well, so you can spend every day fishing, which the fisherman was already doing. I'm really butchering these stories, but you start to see the point. How you can manage the stress while you're moving to obtain the really tangible goals of your life. How you can sleep better at night. The point, my friends, is really simple. Success does not equal peace. You can have the systems, the clients, the growth. You can still be crushed by the weight of the stress if you don't know how to manage it. Now, the reality is stress is part of the job. Stress is part of being an adult. Stress is part of life. You kind of agreed when you started your own firm that stress would kind of be part of the package. You're going to be responsible for cases, for clients, payroll, growth, the direction of the business. All of that's a really heavy load. But here's the question. Is all stress created equal? Is it possible to separate the good stress from the bad stress? Now, typically there are two types of considered stress. There's eustress, which is positive stress, the adrenaline before trial that sharpens your focus, the pushing yourself through a growth goal, the stress that motivates you, spurs you on, the kind of stress you put on your body and your spirit that over time makes you stronger. There's eustress, and then there's distress, the negative stress, the chronic kind that leaves you exhausted, reactive, and short-tempered. It's the email inbox that feels endless, the phone that never stops ringing, the creeping sense that even when you're home, you're never really home. It's the stress you can't put down, that weighs on you, that hurts your health. Maybe law school trained you how to handle eustress, pressure, deadlines, performance, but maybe it didn't teach you how to prevent distress, to take all that positive stress from eventually corrupting into the less helpful kind. That's when everything can go wrong. Your health, your relationships, even the future of your firm. So today, I'm going to leave you with two practices that you can utilize in the morning to help frame yourself into a mindset to handle eustress and avoid distress, as well as a couple of practices at the end of your day to put it all down and perhaps find some peace. So let's talk about what you can do. There are two practices that I really value and utilize at the beginning of my day. The first exercise is going to be some breath work. There's growing up in the arts, growing up as an actor, there was a lot of education in how your breath can influence your thinking, your breath can influence your emotion, breathing exercises to keep you calm. And one of those exercises is box breathing. So, my friends, I want you to picture a square. Imagine the bottom left corner of that square, right? And as we trace together in our imaginations the first stroke up, we're going to breathe on 8 counts. Then, as we move across on the top corner, we're going to hold that for 8 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then starting at the top right corner, down, we're going to breathe out for 8 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then in that bottom right corner across, we hold for another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now imagining this box and counting it out allows you to space out your breath. It's not necessarily about how many seconds you breathe in or out. It's more about being measured with it, of breathing in, of holding it, of breathing out and holding it. It centers yourself because you're concentrated solely on breathing. You're giving yourself permission to pause for a moment. There are different iterations of this exercise. There's yoga that involves breathing, but everything is connected to your breath. And so if you're in the car on the way to work, if you're meditating in the morning, if you're centering yourself, just take a moment and consider that box, those breaths in, holding it, those breaths out, and repeat that 4 to 5 times as you need to. And evaluate how you felt at the beginning and how your body, your mind, your spirit feels on the other side of it. Mindfulness is a huge part of managing stress. So it's not only the practical, but also the emotional. How do you take inventory of all these emotions that you're carrying, whether they're logical emotions, whether they're emotions around things that are in your control or not? A huge way I do that is with journaling. Every morning, I sit with my pen and I write out everything that I'm feeling, whether it's logical, whether it's emotional, whether it's valid or not. I get it all out of my body and onto the page so that it doesn't affect my behavior throughout the day. So here's my challenge to you. If you have some kind of journal at home, if you just have pen and paper, when you wake up in the morning, give yourself 5 minutes to fill up that page. Write, what emotions am I carrying today? And how do I want to respond instead of simply reacting? It's about self-awareness. If you walk into the office already frustrated or anxious, naming it gives you power over it instead of letting it control you. Now, maybe you don't do it right when you wake up. Maybe your mornings are pretty harmonious. Maybe it's the drive into work, the traffic, the emails that are already coming in. Maybe the best way to do it is before you walk into your office to sit in your car and journal it out. Wherever you do it, I want you to take a small benchmark of where your day is now and how you can step into your office with as neutral and calm a demeanor as you can. It's about not letting the day defeat you before you ever walk through the door. Does that make sense? Do this for 5 days. See what difference it makes. Make it your own. If maybe box breathing helps throughout the day, do that. If you find midday journaling's most helpful, try that. It's not a prescription for how you can immediately solve your problems. It's about equipping you with tools that you can bend and cater to your own experiences so that you can find yourself more peaceful. So how do we get you to put the day down at the end of a long day? After all the phone calls, after all the meetings, how do you release all of that? So let's close the day as well. Because without rituals to end the workday, you carry cases home. You carry clients with you to dinner with your family. You're thinking about it when you're watching Netflix. You don't retain what you're reading on the page because you're thinking about something you said to so-and-so. So at the end of your day, we're going to try something called a brain dump. When you leave the office, or maybe right when you get home, write down everything still on your mind, the things that are unfinished, your tasks, your calls, your worries. The human brain's terrible at holding on to open loops. And it's impossible to be present when your mind is putting all of this energy into things that you're not taking any tangible actions on, you're just worrying over. If you don't write them down, your mind's going to keep replaying them all night. So we've got the brain dump, and then we've got gratitude breathing. At the end of your day, take 3 deep breaths. With each deep breath, name one thing that you're grateful for and really mean it. Maybe it was a client who trusted you. Maybe it was a teammate who showed up really big. Maybe it was a case that you've been trying to secure for months that finally seemed to land it. Find something small from your personal life, a text message from a friend, anything. Gratitude reframes your day. It shifts focus away from stress and onto meaning, value, worth. That value and worth is going to be the thing that helps eustress stay eustress. It's going to keep you from feeling hopeless, keep life from feeling repetitive. And here's why all of this matters. Managing stress isn't optional. It's not weakness, it's good leadership. Your team feels it when you're burned out. When you're burned out, your team gets burned out. Your client feels it when you're reactive. Your family feels it when you're mentally checked out at the dinner table. The truth is, you're not just building a business, you're building a life. And if stress steals your ability to enjoy it, then what's the point? Here at Law Firm Alchemy, we're all about law firm owners building not only their best law firm, but also their best lives. Don't be the merchant who has everything and no peace. Be the shoemaker, present, balanced, and able to sing while you work. So tomorrow morning, do 1 round of box breathing, write that journal prompt I gave you. Tomorrow night, do a brain dump and gratitude breathing before you close your laptop. Try it just for 1 week. Write down the difference. Be mindful of it. Send us a message. Let us know how you liked it. Take inventory of how you feel. And above all, take inventory of how you show up for yourself, how you show up for your team, how you show up for your family. Stress is inevitable, but unmanaged stress is optional. You've worked hard to get to where you are. There's no reason to not enjoy it. For myself, and the rest of the team at law firm Alchemy, we really hope you remember to sing. That's all for today's episode. We'll see you on the next installment of They Don't Teach This in Law School.